We have over 400 commodities that we grow here in California, and farmers are under the most extreme regulatory pressure of arguably anywhere in the world, and that's from everybody from our livestock producers to our fresh fruit and vegetable producers. Being able to support our farmers, that's what I wish more people knew. That is really impactful, and taking time to support your neighbor farmer can be a big deal, and that can just be as simple as when you're in your local grocery store, making time for California products.
Hi everybody, thanks for joining us on the Clear Conversations podcast. We're so excited you could be here because we are very excited to have our guest today. Her name is Shannon Douglass. She is the president of the California Farm Bureau Federation, and she is the first female president in the history of the largest agricultural organization in California, and the Farm Bureau has been around for over 100 years, so this is no small accomplishment, let me tell you. Shannon, thank you for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and be out at UC Davis today.
I love it. Yes, we will mention we do have a studio audience of cattle out here, so they may make some noise in the background depending on what we say. So you might hear them, you might not. We'll see what happens. But first of all, tell us a little bit about the California Farm Bureau and its mission for folks out there maybe who aren't familiar with it.
Absolutely. Farm Bureau is a grassroots organization, so we have 54 county farm bureaus across the state, including San Francisco, and our work is really here to protect and preserve our California farmers. That's really the core of what we do, is trying to create a better business environment for our farmers so that they can thrive there. All of our policies start at the local level from our county farm bureaus. It's our individual members that say, hey, I'm having this problem, how can I work to solve it? They can elevate that to us. Sometimes to the local level can be solved. We work on things at the state level and a little bit federally. We also then work with our partners at American Farm Bureau. So really our core is protecting farms and ranches across the state.
No small task.
Yes, it's a very big one.
Yeah, no small task. And you are a farmer rancher yourself. Tell us a little bit about what y'all do.
That's right. My husband and I farm up in Glenn County. Yes. I am a first generation farmer. My husband is arguably first generation. His family was, they were raised on a dairy, but by the time he graduated high school, unfortunately there was no longer a dairy. And so we have beef cattle. We do technically have some dairy cattle because my son does show Holsteins, so we've got a handful of those. Oh, but we also raise walnuts and then forage crops, and then, depending on the year and the market, some other things as well. So I'm very fortunate to be able to do that. And when I'm not busy as Farm Bureau president, I get to feel like a real farmer and enjoy those parts of the day. And ATV time and tractor time, etc. is grounding and helpful.
It's very grounding, yeah, boots on the ground, literally. So I love that you're here at UC Davis, and I love the connection between the Farm Bureau and UC Davis. It's growing, it's evolving, but tell us a little bit about how UC Davis, the research we do here, is hopefully helping farmers and ranchers in the state of California.
I think the research piece is so helpful from our university partners like UC Davis, and it's sort of twofold. There's one part, and that's looking at the super progressive and new technologies, and whether that's new vaccine or a new treatment protocol, or some of the incredible work that's been done on genomics, and just there's really so much that's happened in animal science. The other side, though, is our partners can also help us prove out really practical things. And not that the great research isn't practical, to be clear, but there's a certain part of research that just gets so far in the weeds and is really important too. But I've also seen the last year we had a great bill that California Cattlemen's and California Farm Bureau worked together on, which was being able to compost livestock carcasses. So not the easiest dinner table conversation, but is a really important on the ground, very practical piece that many of our farmers had been doing in some way, shape, or form. It's a kind of a very old practice. It's not super advanced technology, but thanks to our university partners, and I know UC Davis was part of that, CSU Chico did some great work there, and KCD Yatley. But being able to prove out a concept is really important too. And so that wasn't a huge, costly, wildly innovative, earth-shattering, but it was so important to allow a really practical tool that now our farmers and ranchers in California are going to be able to safely and legally use, and that matters a ton too.
Absolutely. And you were on a call a couple of weeks ago with our dean, kind of talking about some of the issues that the Farm Bureau is working on that maybe UC Davis can help out with. But I would imagine every year, there's so many issues in agriculture. There's some that you tackle and some that you think, okay, I can wait till next year on that. But tell us about some of the issues that you really want to dive into this year and work on at the California Farm Bureau.
Yeah, the ones that I think that are top of mind related to, I think, your audience, are probably our work on predators. We've been doing a lot of work. I learned certainly more about wolves than I or my staff really ever wanted to know. I'm sure our rancher friends had never wanted to know this either. But we've really delved into the predator issue, and it is an extremely complicated one to solve, but we are really working to try to find some better tools and better opportunities, frankly, because it is so devastating for our farmers and ranchers that are impacted, in particular right now, by the wolves in the north part of the state. But it's also creating some really big public safety threats as well. So recognizing that too. The other area that we're spending a lot of time on this year is in regards to autonomous technology on farms. Fun fact, if for people that are not aware of it, despite the fact that you can get in a Waymo and drive through a school zone in San Francisco in a highly populated area, you cannot operate a autonomous farm equipment legally in California unless you're sitting in it. And we're to the point now that there are technologies that we are just not even for sale, cannot be deployed in California. So we are being behind our friends in neighboring states, which is not a place we want to be. We are the #1 ag state. We're the technology state too, really for the world, for both those fronts. And so it's pretty frustrating not being able to use tools that are at the cross section of both of those right now. Those are two really big ones. We're of course continuing to work on workforce issues. That's primarily a national issue that we spend time on. We've got an overtime tax credit that we're pushing through as well, and we'll see what all happens federally this year. So and we're always working on water, of course, to be very clear.
Yeah.
But plenty on the list. But I feel like the predators and the autonomous vehicles is of interest too.
The autonomous vehicles, that was really interesting to me. I did not realize that until you mentioned that on that call, because how many of us have seen Waymo and it's coming to Sacramento soon, and to not be able to have autonomous vehicles on the farm, it's like that just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it really does not. It's one of those examples of I need you to make this make sense to me. But it's an old regulation, and so it's a matter of getting an old regulation cleared up. It wasn't that they were intentionally trying to ban autonomous vehicles, autonomous farm equipment very specifically at the time, but they just require an operator sitting in it. And we need to update that 1977 regulation.
It's a little antiquated at this point. Yes. Well, you talked about having a county farm bureau in San Francisco, which is very cool, and it's a very urban area, which leads me to ask, I mean, how do you connect the rural and the urban? How do you connect with consumers out there, which so many of them just don't really understand agriculture because we're so far removed from it? How do you connect the issues that we're dealing with in agriculture with their daily lives?
I think it's a big challenge too, but we try to take it on in a couple of ways. So we have our California Bountiful programs that we've done for a long time. So that has morphed more recently, and we have a lifestyle section in our Ag Alert publication, which has been a lot of fun to bring forward. Our members seem to be appreciating. We've done a lot of more TV type segments, right? And then that has evolved over time, of course. But we also spend a lot of time on Ag in the Classroom. So our California Foundation for Ag in the Classroom has been working for decades now, since the early 80s, trying to help educate school children about agriculture. They've seen some great growth the last year. They actually had a higher delivery rate this last year. They got about 30% more young people and students using their tools than ever before. So we're really pleased with that growth. But it really takes some time and energy, and recognizing we need to try to meet our consumers where they're at. And our consumers are typically pretty far removed from agriculture these days. So they just don't know what they don't know. And I think helping to take some time to help bridge that can be incredibly helpful. I've often told people that you don't need to have your own blog or something, or your own wild YouTube channel. I mean, it's fantastic, the people that do that, and kudos to them for wanting to take that on. But even being someone in your community who is fairly public in the way that they're a farmer and shares what they do, and is can be that bridge of just helping a consumer know, like, hey, I know that person, they're a farmer. They seem like a pretty good human. So I think there's something to that. I'm a big proponent of fairs, for example, and we often have taken cattle to the California State Fair, and it's really hot, and sometimes you're like, why am I here in this heat? But I'm usually reminded before we leave, because it's people getting their first interaction with a cow that is really neat and important. And I think there's something to the fact of an average consumer getting to come out and touch, frankly, a dairy cow for the first time and think, well, this cow seems pretty happy, actually. I don't think they're doing too much mean to her, because she's pretty big.
Right.
And She seems pretty happy with this. And I think there's even something as simple as that helps recognize this idea of what, factory farming and all of that, kind of those preconceived notions, and it helps dispel a lot of those myths.
Those buzzwords that they don't even know what they mean, really, basically. That's so funny. Yeah, people have no idea when they see a cow. It's like, oh, it is really big.
Yes.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Well, you talked about educating. I mean, one of the days that education is paramount is National Ag Day, which is coming up. Tell us a little bit about what you wish people knew more about California agriculture. Any misconceptions out there, or just in general, what do you wish they knew a little bit more about?
Yeah, I wish people better understood the scale and scope of California agriculture. So often people, I think, maybe are starting to think of agriculture as kind of the part of the flyover part or something in California, and maybe don't realize that's just such a huge part of our heritage. So we've been the #1 ag state for over 50 years, and we're producing $62 billion basically a year in agricultural products, and there's a lot of processing, of course. It's a big part of our economy. While farmers are a small percent of the people involved in agriculture in California is substantially higher, because that's from moving those products around the state to putting those salads in the different types of bags and all of that has to happen in our great state. And so it's a huge piece of our economy, and we are hugely important in providing just tremendously healthy, nutritious food for the whole country. Many other states have, a top 2 or 3 commodities they grow. We have over 400 commodities that we grow here in California, and that is about everything you can think of, and all sorts of varieties of just tremendously great products that we can grow here. Our farmers are under the most extreme regulatory pressure of arguably anywhere in the world, and that's from everybody from our livestock producers to our fresh fruit and vegetable producers. So they're under some pretty extreme pressures, and being able to support our farmers, that's what I wish more people knew. That is really impactful, and taking time to support your neighbor farmer can be a big deal, and that can just be as simple as when you're in your local grocery store, making time for California products.
And like you say, talking to the farmer. If you go to a farmer's market, talk to them, ask them the questions that you maybe think are a stupid question. Farmers and ranchers will answer. I mean, I asked a lot of stupid questions during my time at
so nothing wrong with that.
But you don't know what you don't know until you ask. So you ask those questions. And since we're at UC Davis, I have to ask, how do you get the next generation of farmers and ranchers interested in agriculture and realizing that there's all kinds of jobs out there that they could do?
I actually think that's one of the easier parts, as interesting as that is, because there is no shortage of interest in agriculture by young people, and that's a combination. There's it kind of evolves over time. Certainly during COVID, people started kind of collecting chickens more, things like that, right? And having those kind of like interest in food. And that's certainly not becoming a farmer, but there is an interest there, and that's a really positive thing. In California, we've got, I think at this point, like over 100,000 FFA kids. There'll be thousands of them at their conference here in a couple of weeks. And these are people who have some kind of interest, and they're certainly not all going to be farmers. They're not even all going to be in agriculture, but they're getting some tremendous exposure to agriculture, which we're really thankful for. So that part is really helpful. I think the challenge in really getting the young people to stay in agriculture is probably our bigger challenge. And right now, in times where our farm economy is pretty tough, it's a lot harder to convince your kids to stay on the farm and come join a family business that might be having a rough time. But these things are generally cyclical, and so I'm pretty excited. But we have some great programs, and that's our Young Farmers and Ranchers program. So we have very specific programming and conferences and contests and activities that are for the 18 to 35-year-old crowd, so that they have an opportunity. That crowd tends to want to be a little more social, perhaps, than some of our other demographic groups within Farm Bureau, and that's a good thing. We want them to have that opportunity to and find those friends and build those relationships and have a lot of fun while they're doing important work with Farm Bureau too. So we've got a great outlet for that.
And the foundation too, they're doing mentors and mentees too, right?
We are. We're doing some great work trying to basically assign a mentor to aspiring and young farmers and ranchers that are just really early in the career.
Yeah.
So that's been great on finding people who have some kind of a connectivity in their area. So as far as with their commodity, it's not just like finding someone who's already raising beef cattle with someone who just started. It's actually more along the lines of what are their goals, and so finding someone who is doing direct marketing perhaps, or is doing more of a purebred type operation, and kind of trying to match those people up so you have someone who can help be that mentor for you.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing some of your knowledge with us. It's so lovely to see you and talk to you and find out more about what the Farm Bureau is doing and how maybe UC Davis, the Clear Center, we can combine on some things and connect on some issues. So thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely, so glad to.
Good to see you, and thank you for joining us. We'll see you again next time.